And again, I think maybe it's all context because maybe in your culture and in my culture too. I mean, there's certainly aspects of that. And, you know, when I deal with Muslims, especially, well, Pakistanis, who come from very poor country, yet they're very education oriented. And you see the same thing in India, where in this drive for success, and by success, I mean not just material success, but the image of being successful, and being successful as opposed to not being successful. You are in society at a it's like at a higher point socially, and it's a very materialistic idea because ultimately speaking, Islamically speaking, our risk, our sustenance, our wealth is something Allah gives us. There are people, I know people who they work, I mean, here in California, you have Mexicans come up over the border, they work like donkeys, like dogs, we would say in our language, and they get not, and they live impoverished lives. And other people don't work and they live very wealthy lives. So I understand socially how you are put in a position, or anybody is put in a position, because without status or wealth or so-called success, a person can be treated in a certain manner where they're made to feel like a failure. But the reality is they are not a failure. You're only a failure if you're a failure in the sight of Allah. It's really, and nobody knows whether or not they are a failure in the sight of Allah until they die and they go before Allah and He judges them. And if they're punished, then they feel like a failure and they're humiliated. But if they go into Allah's mercy, then that's not the case. And people who in this world, who make a point of judging others based upon the idea of material success or a social status are in effect, in reality, injuring themselves, because when they go before Allah, that's like a form of arrogance, thinking I'm better than this person because I have achieved a certain success. This is very dangerous to the human being. So you have to be worried about that. So people are going to make that a point. Now, if it becomes like a personal point where you feel that way about yourself, then that's a different question, and how people justify their own lives to themselves because they have goals or desires or feelings that they should achieve something, and they might not achieve it because they're incapable of doing it for one reason or another, let's see, emotionally or intellectually or whatever. Then they feel bad about themselves, and that's like on a different level. But when we really should feel bad about ourselves is if we do something that is against what Allah tells us we should do. We should not feel bad about ourselves just because we're working for our family member. Nothing wrong with working for your family member. There's nothing wrong with, if it were a job where you're manufacturing alcohol, then you say, well, yeah, that's an issue from a religious perspective. But other than something, that kind of question, then it's not an issue, you know? So it's not like, I mean, from what you wrote to me, like, oh, here's the truth about my life. I'm working for my uncle. He's my boss. Oh, how horrible. And part 3 will be, I'm currently staying at his house. Oh, dreadful. I'm thinking like, what is this? You know, it's like, oh, this is not like shocking to me. This is like, well, that's nice. And it's nice you were living at your uncle's house, you know. This video is going to go way over 10 minutes. So if I put it on YouTube, I'm going to have to cut it. So if it's cut here or there, you'll know why. I mean, you shouldn't feel bad about that. Now, if you feel bad about your own self-worth or something, that's a different question. And everyone has to deal with that in their own way. Okay? You say you're not interested in looking for a new job. You're in a comfort zone. I know what you mean by that. And I don't know if that's good or bad. The point is, if you're in your 30s and you're unmarried, and especially if you're unmarried in a Muslim society, then that is an issue. And I know that because I face the same problem. You know, if you're not married, it's just considered not acceptable. I mean, you're certainly not going to stay unmarried your whole life. Maybe that's more acceptable for women than men. I think it is, because a woman, there's like that excuse, you know, because it is hard to get married sometimes in our modern societies, financially or whatever. And Muslims really do not make marriage easy. They make it difficult, which it actually should not be. It's just like topsy-turvy. Things that should be easy in our religion are hard. Things that should be hard are easy. I mean, socially, not in our religion, but socially in our societies. So then you go into, so I hope I answered some of that in some kind of a coherent manner. I don't know. I'm rambling on. Okay, then you discuss that you have a personality disorder. You said word disease. You're not normal as you might appear to some people. Okay, you know, well, that's like half the people in California. I don't know. We talk about it a lot. I mean, in our society, if you watch our media, you will notice that. I think we talk too much about it in our society. Exactly. I mean, there are personality disorders. I have a book, which is actually, this is like, I hate to say the Bible of mental health, but it's the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. I got this on a really good price. It's a great copy, very cheap. Anyway, you can look up every personality disorder, mental disorder in this book, you know. So, and there's criteria for what exactly is a mental disorder. I mean, if you actually looked at most people's lives, they have some aspect of mental disorder at some point in their life, and nothing is wrong with that. It just depends on how it's causing a problem in their life and the people around them. But I mean, if you feel you have a mental disorder or a personality disorder, well, that's, at least in my society, that's very common. Maybe in your society, I won't mention where that is, because this video will be out in the global, worldwide web thing. But maybe in your society, it's not like it is here, because in this society, I mean, people talk about the most intimate things publicly. It's really ridiculous. We go way too far. But on the other hand, some societies don't go far enough, you know.